And we have three objectives in today's meeting. It'll last an hour. The objectives are, after I give a brief introduction, is to give an update on what's happened since our last webinar, which was at the beginning of October. Then I will provide an update on what the Healing Across the Divides board has decided with respect to a vote that they've taken recently. And then we will open it up for questions. And before I discuss, the board, we will have presentations in terms of this update from our two representatives, our communications director, and then in addition, have presentations from two grantees, an older grantee, that is to say, not old chronologically, but an older grantee in terms of being with us at Healing Across the Divides. And then in addition, a newer grantee that just began. We will hear also from Mejdi Tours. So again, an update, a discussion about the board decision, and lastly, open it up for questions. And I want to first of all start out by saying that I want to thank everybody who's on this webinar for attending the webinar. I want to in particular thank many of you have been donors to Healing Across the Divides. And I want to highlight in particular a group of people that's zooming in from Bangor, Maine, Temple Bethel. So there's a whole group of people from Temple Bethel. In fact, they're waving. I can see that right now. And I want to welcome you also. So as I indicated, I'm the founder and executive director of Healing Across the Divides. It's a 20-year-old organization. As my wife says very often, that I'm the lucky one to have met many of you. And what's great about this organization is that I'm going to meet new people, because there's a fair number of people who are on the Zoom today who I've never met before. And I look forward to getting to know each and every one of them. For those of you who aren't so familiar with Healing Across the Divides, our mission is remained the same, which is to measurably improve the health of marginalized Israelis and Palestinians through community-based interventions. We do it through funding of local community-based groups, and you're going to hear from two of them today, in addition to our representatives and our communication director. These grants are 3-year grants, and our hope is not just to measurably improve the health of marginalized Palestinians and Israelis, but also to strengthen the groups that we fund. My dream, and it's still a dream, and it may definitely die with me as a dream, is that, in fact, some of the leaders, and you will meet two leaders today, not just our representatives and our communication director, all of whom are amazing people, and the people at Mejdi Tours are amazing also, but the directors of these community groups could be tomorrow's political leaders, as far as I'm concerned. That's up to them, for them to decide, of course. But we try to strengthen the groups, and we hope that these community leaders will continue to play a significant role. The reality is that the October 7th has been a significant event. It's definitely, for me personally, been the most difficult time for me professionally in my dealings with the Middle East, and I've been going to the Middle East since the late 1960s. It's been very much of a challenge. But those of you who know me know that I never give up. And Healing Across the Divides has done amazing work because of the fact of the people who are part of the organization. And so with that, I would like to start and highlight our representatives. You'll hear from Nihat Fatah, then you'll hear from our communications director, Tova Reznicek, and then from our Israeli representative, Verana Viktorchuk. After that, you'll hear from the two grantees, and after that, you'll hear from Mejdi Tours, and you'll hear about the possibility of visiting with Mejdi Tours some of the grantees that you'll be hearing about today, and additional grantees. So I'd like to start, Nihat, with you. Welcome, Nihat. Thanks so much for being here, all of us, and we'll get started.
Hi, I'm just waving hello really quick, but I have to jump off because the bandwidth is really bad. So hi, everybody. Thanks for joining. Okay, so just to piggyback a little bit about what Norbert just said about October 7th has been a challenge. As a Palestinian living in the West Bank, it's not only been a challenge, it's been painful, emotional, and very violent. And as you may or may not be following the news, the situation is quite bad. So I'm just going to give you a quick rundown of what it's like right now, at least in the West Bank, and then I can just go through some numbers really quick about what's happening in Gaza for those who may not be following the news. In the West Bank, settler violence has increased. They have, especially in actually there's like a lot of cases in the South, but we hear a lot about it going on in the North. Israeli incursions into the north, which would be Nablus, Jenin, Tulkarem, Kalkilia, has been on the rise. Most of the incursions are in the refugee camps in those areas, with mass arrests, men, children, and women being arrested without due process, without charges, basically just being taken hostages, with no legal representation whatsoever. The same has been happening in the South and in the center in Ramallah. Again, they're in the refugee camps. And so this is something that's been going on daily. This was happening before October 7th. So this is nothing new to Palestinians in the West Bank. It's just that it's increased tremendously since October 7th. So the violence has gotten really bad, and the settler violence has also risen. And again, no one is taking accountability for the violence that is being imposed on the Palestinians in the West Bank when settlers attack. In Gaza, so far 27,000 people have, children and women and men have been killed. 66 over 66, actually over 27,000. 66,000 men, women, and children have been injured, and over 8,000 plus are still stuck under the rubble. And Palestinians can't get to them in Gaza, and they are on the verge of famine. The Israeli regime has cut off water, electricity, and have been monitoring the aid that comes into Gaza, and it's been very, very challenging. A new development has been Israeli settlers, I think they're settlers, also impeding on any delivery into Gaza. So that's kind of the general overview. It's really bad, basically. That's the simplest forms. The situation is deteriorating. I'm not even going to get into salaries and people not receiving money. And so the situation is really bad. Having said that, we do good work. So this is what I'm, as the West Bank representative, Palestinian representative in the West Bank, we are currently funding 5 organizations, dealing from anything from providing health education to young women in refugee camps in Ramallah and Nablus. We're working in Jenin right now, providing psychosocial services, mostly one-on-one services right now, because the incursions in Jenin have been so bad, and the trauma for the children in that area and women and men has been tremendous. So we've shifted to doing one-on-one individual counseling. We have a new group that we're working with called Tomorrow's Youth, which is providing domestic violence support. We are currently funding an old organization called Yes Theater, when they're doing drama therapy in the South, and then Anar, which I will introduce later, is also doing psychosocial work in both Hebron and in Bethlehem. So that's kind of my updates. I think move it on to Tova now. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Nihad. Hi, everybody. I thank you so much for being here. A large number of you, or some of you I know from previous webinars and also in person, from people that have come from all over the world to the Healing Across the Divide study tour in the West Bank and Israel. So I am the communications director. As you can hear from my accent and Nihad's, we are dual American citizens that have been living here for the majority of our lives. So I'm in Tel Aviv right now. And I'll start off by saying that I just got over, or I'm getting over a very bad stomach virus. And the reason I say that is really to bring up the fact that um, it's been like everybody here, 15 million people living between the river and the sea, a very intense few months. As Nihad said, even before October 7th, it was certainly not dull here. But since then it's been exponentially worse, exponentially more frightening, to be honest. So I've been, in addition to working for Healing Across the Divides, I do a lot of other peace through health related activities, and I normally am in the West Bank, at least every few weeks, and I was supposed to go tomorrow, and I couldn't because I had a stomach virus. And here I am thinking, like I'm in this, horrific situation. Geopolitically, I can't miss this day, basically helping deal with trauma patients um, in refugee camps or in very places that don't have access to healthcare. And I couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it. And it really brought home to me the profound importance of individual health, of community health, and how critical it is for people to feel good, to be able to partake in anything right now that is constructive in terms of mitigating everything awful that's happening, uh, and what's the word in English, and highlighting, shining light on all the things that we are trying to do. And there are many, many things that all of the 15 million people here are trying to do to make tomorrow a better day. So that really is, the plug for how very important peace building through health is, for not just as individual human beings. We want people to feel better, but in terms of the larger conflict here, it's critical. I am so blessed and lucky to be part of a team of people that recognize that fact, that ultimately we're all people that get colds and get sick and have to deal with the day-to-day life. In varying degrees, of course, of living in this war zone that the large majority of us, overwhelming majority, does not want to continue to live this way, and would rather be doing other things with their family and loved ones. So I'd like to share that I think we all need your help in getting the word out. And especially, I'm assuming, most of the people on this call are from the States. There's a tremendous amount going on, and Healing Across the Divides is an important part of that. A tremendous amount of civil action, of mobilization that I have never seen in any years that I've been living here. And it makes me proud and to be a human and part of these 15 million people. But we need your help to get the word out, because I'm guessing from anything that you might be reading in the news, you're not hearing good news. And there is a lot of good news. In the larger picture, it's very, very difficult. But on a scale here of day to day, there's incredible efforts going on, including by my colleagues here. And I'm grateful for everybody that's here now, giving their time to support us. And I hope to meet all of you either again or for the first time in person when you come visit the Middle East. in better days. So that's it, and I will pass it on now to our Israel representative, Veronica Vigdolchik.
Hi, everyone. I'm Veronica. It's a bit difficult to talk because the situation is so unspeakable. Sometimes you don't have enough words to describe even the situation. I will begin that I hope that it will be the last war we will ever see, and this war in some way will bring us all peace. But the daily life is filled with anxiety, fully watching the news every day, waiting for something to evolve. If it's the coming back of the hostages, it's the understanding of it's raining now. So the thoughts of the people in Gaza that some of them don't have shelter, how is the hostages are managing, what is going on to be in the north. People are still displaced in the south and in the north because the borders are still unsafe. So the situation is complex. I will not go into details because I'm sure that you can hear or see the details on the news, but I would rather to express the human maybe experience, and it's bad. We are, I can imagine, and I'm speaking for myself, maybe I'm speaking for other people, that we are broken. We are broken. We are mentally broken. We are, in a way, it's affecting our physicality, and people taking it in different ways. And the only thing that I have left to be hopeful is for us to live in peace. And again, this is a message that I would like to come across, that each of us has some kind of responsibility, or even have a way to take action. And maybe the word that we should promote is peace, and not like putting more fuel to the fire, and for this thing to be over, and that Israel and Palestine will find its way to justice, to peace, and a way for us to get along and to live together, and on or each way they're choosing. So I don't want to go into הגדרות, I forgot the name in English, to definitions, sorry. And this is also what we are doing in Healing Across the Divides, that we are looking through the divisions, and we are looking for the common ground among people, and also among our staff. In Israel, we have now four organizations. One of them is Ladat. Dina will explain later on about the organization. We also have Medical Vadi. It's a Arab Jewish organization. They're doing medical work in the area in the north. What we are funding is a program for mothers pre and after birth, Arab and Jewish, that come together, and this is and their first experience of their children is the togetherness, and also the process of motherhood. We also have a new grantee, El Bakur. It's from our last call of proposals. They are settled in the Negev. It was based by a Jewish woman, but it's working only in the unrecognized Bedouin villages in the Negev, doing work with children from, not children, but toddlers from 0 to 3, for reading, and with mothers to work with them on their mental capabilities with the children. And that's it. So thank you very much. And Norbert.
Thank you very much, Veronica, Nihad, and Tova. Now I'm going to ask Nihad to introduce Rami Kader from a new organization that we're just begun to support in the last month.
Hi, so I'd like to introduce Rami Khadir, and he is based in Bethlehem, working for an organization called ANAR. They are a new organization working in the field of psychosocial support for people living in the South and the North, but Rami has been doing this work for a very, very long time. So I'd like to introduce Rami.
Thank you so much, Nihad and Norbert. We're very happy to be part of Healing Across the Divides Grantees starting this year. My name is Rami Khader. I am a psychologist. I have been working with theater and social work for the last 15 years, trying to work with different communities in the West Bank as well. I founded an organization called ANAR recently, and that is out of the outcome of a process of working with, for the last 3 years, with Palestinian children, the age of 12 and above, who are imprisoned in Israeli prisons. And that process of unchilding children, talking to children afterwards, talking to their caregivers, to their community, brought me to an idea that healing individuals in Palestine is important, but we really need to work on a community level. We need to approach intergenerational trauma. We need to approach trauma that has been going on for the last for 3 generations, from one generation into the other, that healing becomes more about how we equip communities to heal themselves rather than going to communities and healing individuals. The need on the ground is great, and we need an army of social workers, an army of psychologists to be able to bring back people to, I wouldn't even say normal, to bring back people to understand their reality and what they have been going on. I can't see the presentation, Norbert.
Okay, so let me try to, let's see if I can do it. Let's take a look. Okay. Why don't you try now? Does that work? Well, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to Rami, can you hear me? Let's take a look here.
We can hear you, Norbert.
Okay, I can hear you, but I guess Rami can't hear me.
Is he on mute?
So I'm trying to, just was able to, sorry about this. but you can hear me, right, Nihat?
We can hear you, Norbert.
Okay. I'm just trying
Yeah.
to.
So,
Rami, are you there?
yes, yes, yes.
Oh, sorry. So I showed your slide. So if you want to start, I'll show it again. Can you see my slide? Your slide, rather?
Yes, yes.
Okay. If you could take 5 minutes now to go through your presentation, that'd be great.
Sure. Next. So our slogan is healing to hope, because we believe that by healing communities under oppression, we are able to bring them back to enjoy life and enjoy and be able to think about their future as well. Norbert, if you can move a couple slides. 2003 actually was one of the deadliest years in the West Bank. And I'm talking about even before October 7th, about 573 people were killed by Israeli military and settler violence as well, including 112 children. So the situation even before October the 7th was deteriorating. Settlement expansion and violence is actually on the rise. And after October the 7th, military presence, settler violence in the West Bank has increased tremendously in large numbers. And what we experience lately is not only that Israeli military is invading Bethlehem, Hebron, and other cities on daily basis, but also that we have undercovers, Israeli undercovers, who are invading the cities, taking hostages on daily basis. It's not safe in many places. It's roadblocks between cities has been an issue. Soldiers on checkpoints can make decisions whether to close the entire governorate or city or not. In many cases, our team got trapped in refugee camps or in cities or in villages because soldiers decided to close the city. We had to sleep sometimes in strangers' houses because we didn't have a place to go. So it's very hard to really function at the moment. We have 3 programs at ANAR. The program that has been supported by HATD. This is a program in the southern part of the West Bank, in Bethlehem and in Hebron. We are piloting the idea of strengthening communities, of starting protection groups in communities so that they become leaders to support other people as well in the different communities. You can see as well photos of the different activities that has been going on. We have 3 communities in Bethlehem, 1 community in Hebron that we work with. Actually, we have been trying to start a group in Tqu' village nearby Bethlehem, but for the last 2 weeks, but we have been successful to go there because Israeli military and sniper killed a 16 years old child in the streets of Tqu' a week ago, 2 weeks ago, and they haven't yet returned his body to be buried. So the whole village is very sad, is not functioning normally. And but we're hoping that once they return the body of the child, that we would become able to go there and work with the community. So can you go ahead, Norbert? Next. So you see here photos of protection groups, young people that we train on mental health and psychosocial support, hoping that they would become catalysts in their own community and support their communities with psychological first aid, psychological immunity, different activities that would lift their communities, caregivers in their communities, children in their communities as well, just to give them a glimpse of healing and hope in the midst of the brutality of living under occupation. In these photos, you see us training 18 psychologists and social workers from the Hebron governorates, in which they are working with so many communities and children in the southern governorate as well. Yeah, thank you so much for the support, HATD, because our work is really vital at the moment, more than ever. Violence is on the rise, and there is no one place that is in more need than another in Palestine at the moment. Everyone is mourning the death of children, the slaughter of innocents in Gaza. So you see, people are really traumatized. People aren't unable to really think clearly of what's the future. They cannot really see a future. So our work is really just to give people, even slowly but surely, little hope that life is still possible.
Thank you, Rami. Veronica, would you like to introduce Dina?
Yes. So Ladat is a very, I can say, old organization. It's working for years now. It's for women's rights, and I think Dina will describe it the best than me. I would say that we are super happy and proud to work with Ladat because it's groundbreaking work. They manage to do something that they in all over Israel they couldn't done. They started to work in the Arab community in East Jerusalem for sexual education, and it's something that is groundbreaking, and we are really, really proud doing that. And Dina, it's yours.
Okay. So hi, good morning to you. Good afternoon to us here. My name is Dina. I'm the director of Ladat. Maybe some of you have heard me before. It's our third year in healing, getting support from healing for one of our programs, which is the work we do in East Jerusalem. Ladat, as Veronica said, is a very old organization. We were founded in the late 70s. I wasn't there since then, it's before I was born, but it's a very, very established organization, which our main goal is reproductive health and reproductive rights. And we do so with one-on-one individual counseling. We do sex education programs in schools, and also raising awareness and working in social media the past few years, and advocacy when it comes to reproductive health and rights specifically, and also women's rights and health in general. So that's us. We work in Hebrew and in Arabic, focusing in Jerusalem, which means West and East Jerusalem, but also nationwide, and also outside the borders of Israel when it comes to our online services and information that we provide. So as Veronica said, we've been working the past few years in East Jerusalem. It's a newish program for us, specifically working with this community, doing something that's one of the only organizations doing, which is sex education and reproductive rights. And I'll say about a couple words, I mean, what's happening with the current situation in the organization. So like many organizations, we had a short, well, not like many, for us, we had a very short period of freezing when October 7th, dealing with our own traumas and trying to figure out how to proceed, understanding that we give vital services, if it's our counseling services mostly, and we actually didn't close our counseling centers for even a day. We were running October 8th, answering phone calls and helping whomever needed us. Our educational programs took a while to restart because of schools being out, and so the communities were able to bring back educational programs. And I have to say that we have succeeded and almost gone back to normal when it comes to the numbers, in spite of what's happening, not because of what's happening. There was no, it wasn't a, it definitely didn't promote sex education, but very proud to say that we have over 150 workshops happening now, started in the beginning of the month and are going throughout almost till Ramadan in East Jerusalem, which is the most we've had since we started. I'll say the main challenges that we are facing these times. So first of all, working as a mixed organization, Jews and Palestinians together, is not easy these days. We are each experiencing things differently. We're each mourning for our own people. It's bringing new challenges. If it's, I can say personally, my husband's been drafted since October 7th in his combat unit, while my friends from East Jerusalem are, their hearts are in what's happening in Gaza, where all of our hearts are in what's happening in Gaza for various reasons. And this has been challenging. I can also say, as a feministic organization, we've been very active in the field of raising awareness and fighting for acknowledgement when it comes to the sexual violence on October 7th. And it's been something very difficult for us as an organization working in a global, who think we were working within a global community of feministic organizations, having to advocate for things that seemed obvious to most of us that we won't have to advocate for. Another thing that's been challenging is access to services. Often, especially in the beginning, in the break of the war, one of the first things that are affected are, first of all, women, for sure, and also things to do with women's health. I mean, it's always, it gets marginalized, it gets something that, you push back also as a woman, but also as a system. So we've had to help women gain access to services, especially in East Jerusalem, where there were roadblocks. It was harder to get in and out of various neighborhoods. So we offered a service of helping them get to their appointments, even driving them to appointments, and emphasizing how important it is to keep, their health and their day-to-day needs, even in these times. One of the services that was very much affected is the fact that we're the only organization that helps fund abortion in Israel. We have our own fund that we can help financially support women who need help when it comes to abortion and buying contraception. Most of our clients for this fund are Palestinian women, because all Israeli women who have citizenship have health insurance, which means most of them will be covered, definitely when it comes to abortion, but also for some of the contraception. And we've mostly been helping Palestinian women, but with the West Bank being closed, as said, and it's been much harder for Palestinians to come into the borders of Israel. So it's been difficult for us, impossible for us to help these women, which we were formally helping come into Israel and get abortions here, because it is illegal in the West Bank to get an abortion. So we would help provide abortion under the Israeli law. So this is just examples of some of the things we've been dealing with. But I have to say also, when it comes to human rights and it comes to health, in the end, the mission is the same mission, and it's providing the best support and help and knowledge we can give to anyone in need of it. And this is something we've maintained from the first day, with all the heartache and all the, different issues we've been dealing with within Israel and in the Palestinian community, and trying to find space, empathy for both sides. But for sure, it's just the beginning, and sadly, we'll still be seeing the ramifications, the effects of this time for a while still. I think that's the one thing, like a personal, professional heartache that we had, is on October 12th, we were supposed to have a big, over 200 participants in that Hebrew and Arabic conference dealing with sexual health in Israel, in Jerusalem specifically. with speakers from East and West Jerusalem and participants. And obviously that did not happen. We still hope it will happen by the end of 2024. But for instance, that's one of the things we're dealing with. How do you deal with, we need the dust to settle and people to be able to come together again. We don't expect to see that before the end of the year, like not before September or October of 2024. So that's one of the things that we had to push, but are still hopeful that we'll be able to come together again as a community. I think that's the main thing, our main point.
Thank you so much, Dina, for speaking. And I'm going to now see, let's take a look. Okay. Great. So I hope that technology is not my forte, but let's take a look. I'm just going to put it on gallery. So I hope everybody in this on the Zoom heard the tone of voice from everybody who was speaking. So it's not just the content, it is the tone that people express. You don't have to hear those, that tone is translated into feelings and it's translated into words. And basically the words that I would say is thank you. Thank you to each and every one of you. It definitely always validates hearing all of you speak, the representatives, Tova, Rami, and Dina. It really validates why Healing Across the Divides exists. And so I just want to emphasize that appreciation. And frankly, it exists again, and I want to say it again. It exists because of many of you who have been supporters of Healing Across the Divides all these years. Historically, so now what I'm going to do for 2 minutes, and then I'm going to hand it over to Mejdi Tours, is historically Healing Across the Divides, the board of Healing Across Divides, has never taken an explicit political stance on the conflict. And the board is composed of Jewish Americans, Arab Americans, Christian Americans, Americans in general. So we have a whole variety of people on the board. But within the past month, we did take a stance, and this is board driven. And I just wanted to highlight it for everybody. I'm going to send it to everybody at the once the recording is finalized and everything. But the bottom line that I want to highlight for you is that this note, which will be sent on behalf of the board to legislators in the United States, will ask for the following: to call on Israel to immediately institute a ceasefire, to secure the peaceful release of all Israeli hostages, to engage U.S. and international partners to exert collective pressure on all parties to the conflict for the creation of a sustainable environment of dialogue and negotiation. Appeal to all governments and influencers in this conflict to prioritize the dire health crisis perpetuated by the war in Gaza. People don't mention the fact, because we're not directly involved, is that there's 50,000 women right now in the last few months who are pregnant and giving birth. We want to ask you to join Healing Across the Divides in declaring collectively as Americans of Jewish, Christian, and Muslim faiths that we espouse equal access to health services, justice, human dignity, and peaceful living conditions. And in addition, this is something is that Rami Kader alluded to, address the fact that since October 2023, over 2,000 Palestinians are being held in jails with no reason provided or sentences given. And again, I'd be happy to respond to any questions that come up about this, whether it's through today's Zoom or separately. And lastly, recognize that this war, and this was written a couple of weeks ago, recognize that this war can lead to a larger protracted regional conflict, which is not in the interest of the United States. So that's what we have put forward, something that we've never done. We just hope for the best. But most importantly, I hope people hear what's going on the ground. what's going on the ground from Dina Shalev's perspective, El Adat, and from Rami Kader's perspective at Anar. So now what I'd like to do, and then we're going to open it up for comments and questions, and I would urge everyone who would like to submit a question or comment on the chat, and then just direct it for whom it is, or if it's not, we can then open it up. But I'd like to welcome Kim Passy Joseph, who I know as Kim, so I'm hoping I'm pronouncing your last names correctly. I've known Kim for many years. One of the wonderful things about starting this organization, and I want to give a shout out to a woman named Sarah Weinberger, who started our study tour that we have as an annual study tour. And she started this quite a few years ago. And we were lucky to have as a partner, and a partner in a number of ways, Mejdi Tours. So they have, as they'll describe to you in just a second, but the founder of Mejdi Tours is Aziz Abu Sarah, who many of you know, but he is just accepted to being on the board of Healing Across the Divides. So just for a few minutes, I'd like to pass it on to Kim, and then hopefully that there will be many questions and comments that we can begin to address. And I want to commit to everybody that we will end on time.
Thank you, Norbert. First, thanks for having us and for all the support throughout these last few months. Hi, everyone. I'm Kim. I'm the Director of Operations at Mejdi Tours. As Norbert mentioned, Aziz Abu Sarah is one of the co-founders, and Scott Cooper is the other co-founder. Scott is an American Jew, and Aziz is Palestinian born. They found Mejdi Tours from a peace building agenda. They decided that through tourism you can create social change, and that's what they're aiming for until today. And what we've created, I'm going to send a link, and I'll try to be short because I know that we're on, Norbert said he wants to end on time. But for this whole situation that's happening over here, and I'm saying situation because I think that each of us is feeling differently about what exactly is going on. I myself have a friend that was held hostage in Gaza for 54 days. Luckily, or I can't say that luck is one of the things that she necessarily had, but she was freed and is home now, coping with everything she went through with her family. And since that day, October 7th, when I knew that she was missing, it took about 18 days for us to know that she was actually being held hostage. I managed to get the team together, where our team is Israelis and Palestinians all over, in Ramallah, in Bethlehem, in Hebron, in Jerusalem, in Tel Aviv, etc. And we found a way forward. We found a way to listen to each other. And we understood that this is what we want also the international community to do as well. And that's why we built a mission trip in March that will be taking travelers, mainly American travelers, to see and hear the stories, the personal stories. We're not aiming for the big shot speakers, and we're not going to go to the kibbutzim necessarily, because we feel that we want to be very, very sensitive to the communities that are still living what's happening today. And Aziz is actually going to be leading that trip. So I'm going to send the link, and I urge you to take a look. We will probably have additional trips in the future as well. And part of the trip that is very important is we're also offering a 2-day extension to meet with grantees of Healing Across the Divides. And during the main trip itself, we're also going to be meeting a grantee of Healing Across the Divides, because we've been in such great partnership that we had to highlight the amazing work that you're doing here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And it's really is a privilege. Please look at the link in the chat, and I'll be sending it to everybody. Let me just see if I can by some miracle, go back to this. So what I'd like to do is respond to some of the questions, but again, I want to highlight and some of the comments. I want to start out by saying that again, I never cease, I'm continuously moved every time we have a Zoom like this, and the last time was also the same thing. And I just want to highlight what Sarah Weinberger said. It's incredible that all of our presenters, while managing their own trauma, are able to do such incredible work. And I hope that comes through really loudly and clearly. With respect to the questions, and then I want to just ask if there's any particular specific issues. There's a question from Rohan Miskimin, and if you just email me, I must have your email, so I'll definitely give you some ideas as to how we can possibly work together. I think that's great. Thank you from Tamar. From Ned, and I'm going to look to you, Veronica, if you have any comments on this question. I wonder what the attitude of the Israeli government is to all these efforts of healing across the divides. Basically, at the end of the day, we do not, even though we've taken a public stance now, so it'll be interesting to see what actually happens. We have taken a public stance, but even so, we're very much under the radar. So we're not an organization. Well, let me put it this way. We're an organization that exists to work with the community organizations that you heard from today. That's what our existence is focused on. So the board felt morally compelled to take a stance, and I think that's great. We're all supportive. The staff was all involved in that decision. But as the staff highlighted, the staff began by saying issues pertaining to themselves, but then moved to the grantees. Do you have any other comments on that, Veronica, with respect to what you think might
It depends who you ask in the government. So I will say to that. Today, in our atmosphere, it's more combat and very militant feeling. So, but I will say that I will continue what Norbert said. Because we are an American organization, we are a bit under the radar, and it gives us also more freedom to work with more marginalized communities and to do more in-depth work. So sometimes it's also for our benefits to be under the radar and to do much more extensive work with the grantees.
There's a question that I don't know the answer to. Has the reform movement taken a public stance on the conflict? I don't know the answer, John Falk, but I will definitely look into it. Don't know the answer to that. And if anybody does know the answer, feel free to put it in the chat. How about any other questions or comments? Just put it in the chat. Otherwise, I'm going to turn to Kim for a last minute. Do you want to say anything more about the tour for a minute as to what the tour will consist of? For sure that the add-on will consist of meeting with 4 grantees, but if there's anything else that you'd like to add, and then I will respond to other questions.
Sure. The tour, we're actually starting it off with a interactive listening session. We think that from what we're hearing, a lot of people find it difficult to stay in the room to listen to someone that's speaking a different narrative than theirs. And the first thing that we want to prepare everyone is to listen, because we're going to be hearing stories from all different sides. I think it's not even an Israeli or Palestinian side. There are 1,000 different narratives and stories, etc. We're going to be meeting peace builders. We'll be meeting families that were affected by October 7th. Either they lost family members or they have family members that are still being kept hostage. We will be meeting Palestinians, both Muslims and Christians to hear the different experiences. We will be meeting, as I said, Healing Across the Divide grantees, but also Druze, Bedouin speakers. We will meet health personnel that will talk about the difficulties in the health world. So it will really be a mix of stories and narratives, and you'll come out with a lot. I think that almost none of them are stories that you will find on the media today. It feels like there is an additional war going on in social media and in formal media. And what we'll be bringing is the people on the ground and what they're feeling. I think Veronica was saying that we all just want to live in peace. I think that that's what the people are talking about daily. Our governments, our leadership on both sides is being pretty horrible to all of us. And what we need from the international community is to come here and see that the people are not looking to continue this. We're looking to continue, or not continue, to find a way to live peacefully.
Thank you, Kim. I think again, I hope you heard that loud and clear as we begin to wrap up. I'm just going to make a couple comments on some last questions. I'm not sure if I'm responding completely to the comment by Alita Roberts. Any American news that we are hearing that HATD disagrees with? The reality is that there are at least many different sides, and people are not listening to each other. If there's one thing I hope you came from this that comes out loud and clear from this Zoom session, is the fact that that there's a tremendous trauma that has occurred and is ongoing. Yet there are groups that are on the ground and that are continuing to do amazing work. Question that was from Linda Cohen that was responded to, and certainly, is there any way to share these stories with Israelis and Palestinians? So that occurs through the organizations that we work with, and certainly through our representatives. And I guess I would just like to say in conclusion that this is it's wonderful to hear from all of you. I want to just say that we are currently supporting 10 initiatives. I want to thank again for the group at Temple Bethel for attending, and I want to conclude by saying that despite all the difficulties, we appreciate all the support that you've given. Please email us with any questions. You'll be getting a copy of the recording. You'll be also getting a copy of a paper that I just completed that's on my own personal reflections on what I think should be going forward. With that, I'd like to say thank you to all. It's 11:30. Many of you know me. There's a fair number of you who don't know me, but I like to start on time and I end on time. And I want to thank you for joining today. And let's work together and give peace a chance. Thank you. Bye-bye now.